When most people hear the name McDonald's, they think of one thing: burgers. Millions of people visit its restaurants every day, buying burgers, fries, drinks, and everything in between. But behind this global fast food giant is a business strategy that most customers never think about. Because McDonald's is not simply a company that sells food. It also built a powerful business around something much less exciting than a hamburger: real estate. And once you understand this, the entire McDonald's story starts to look different. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to the beginning. In the early days, McDonald's was nothing like the global corporation we know today. It started as a small restaurant with a simple idea: serve food quickly, cheaply, and consistently. The system worked. Customers came in, orders moved quickly, and the restaurant became increasingly efficient. But the real breakthrough came when the idea was turned into a repeatable system. Instead of building just one successful restaurant, the same model could be copied again and again. One location became two became dozens, and eventually the network began spreading across the country. But expanding restaurants creates a major problem. Every restaurant needs a place to exist, and choosing the right piece of land can make an enormous difference. A restaurant in the wrong location might struggle. A restaurant in the right location could become extremely profitable. So location wasn't just a detail, it was part of the business itself. And this is where a very important idea enters the story: owning or controlling the real estate underneath the restaurant. Imagine having a successful restaurant sitting on valuable land that thousands of customers visit every week. Suddenly, the land becomes much more than just a place to put a building. It becomes an asset connected to a successful business. And if the surrounding area grows, that piece of land can become even more valuable. A location that once seemed ordinary could become extremely valuable years later. As cities expanded, roads became busier, and neighborhoods grew, good locations could become incredibly important. Now imagine doing this not once, but hundreds or even thousands of times. That is when the strategy starts becoming truly powerful. Because now you're no longer looking at a single restaurant. You're looking at a massive network of businesses, customers, locations, and property. And that is the secret most people never notice. The burger is only the part you can see. Behind it is a business model built around something far bigger: controlling valuable locations and turning them into a powerful financial machine. But here is where the McDonald's story gets really interesting. The restaurant itself was only part of the business. Behind many restaurants was something far more valuable than burgers: the land underneath them. The idea was surprisingly simple: control the real estate, and the restaurants could become part of a much bigger financial machine. Think about it like this: a restaurant can make money from selling food, but the land itself can also have enormous value. Suddenly, the business was no longer just about selling food. It was about controlling valuable locations where people wanted to eat. And location matters enormously in the restaurant business. A great restaurant in the wrong location can struggle. A restaurant in the right location can attract customers for decades. So the question became, what if the company could systematically control those valuable locations? That strategy could create something much more powerful than a collection of fast food restaurants. And as the number of locations grew, the real estate strategy became more important. The franchise model made this even more powerful because independent operators could run restaurants while the larger system controlled the business relationship around them. In simple terms, the company could build a system where restaurants generated sales while the underlying property created another stream of economic value. This is the part most customers never see when they walk into a McDonald's. They see burgers, fries, menus, and employees. Behind the scenes, there can be a much larger business structure.
It was almost like an iceberg. Customers could see the restaurant, but a much larger structure existed underneath. As McDonald's expanded across America, this model became increasingly powerful. Every new location could become another piece of a growing national network.
One restaurant was useful. Hundreds of strategically placed restaurants were something completely different. Scale changed everything. The more locations the system controlled, the more valuable the entire network could become. And there was another hidden advantage. Good real estate can become more valuable as the surrounding area grows. A location that was cheap decades ago could become extremely valuable after a city expanded around it. That means the company wasn't only thinking about today's burger sales, it could also benefit from the long-term value of the locations.
Real estate rewards patience. A great location can become more valuable over many years. And when you combine thousands of restaurants with thousands of valuable locations, the numbers become enormous. This is why looking at McDonald's as just a burger company can miss an important part of the story. The restaurant is what customers interact with. The larger business model is what investors pay attention to. And this is where McDonald's turned a simple restaurant concept into something much bigger. What looked like a fast food empire was also connected to a carefully structured real estate and franchise strategy. And once you understand that, McDonald's starts to look very different. It wasn't simply selling burgers. It had built a system around locations, franchises, and real estate. Once you see the entire system, the genius becomes easier to understand. McDonald's had created multiple sources of value around the same physical location. Customers saw a restaurant. Franchisees saw a business opportunity. And behind it all was valuable real estate. This structure also helped McDonald's expand without personally operating every restaurant. Instead, franchise operators could run locations, while McDonald's built and managed the larger system around them. That meant the company could grow its footprint while creating recurring business relationships around each location. And the more successful the locations became, the stronger the entire network could become. This created a powerful cycle. More restaurants meant more customers, more locations, and a larger network. But expansion alone wasn't enough. The locations had to be strategically chosen. A piece of land next to a busy road could be far more valuable than the same amount of land somewhere nobody visits. That's why location became one of the most important assets in the entire model. And real estate has one major advantage. It can appreciate over time. A location that looked ordinary decades ago could become extremely valuable as the surrounding community grew. New roads, new homes, new businesses, all of them could change the economics of the location. The restaurant could benefit from the growing traffic, while the property could benefit from the growing area. And when this happens across thousands of locations, small advantages can become enormous. This is the power of scale. One restaurant can make money. A massive network can create an entirely different level of economic power. McDonald's had effectively built a machine where different parts of the business supported one another. Customers generated sales, restaurants created demand, locations created strategic value, and the network kept expanding. Suddenly, the famous golden arches represented much more than fast food. They represented a global network of restaurants, franchises, customers, and valuable locations. But there was still one question. Just how powerful could this real estate strategy become? To answer that, you have to stop looking at individual restaurants and start looking at the entire property portfolio. Suddenly, the famous golden arches represented much more than fast food. They represented a global network of restaurants, franchises, customers, and valuable locations. But there was still one question. Just how powerful could this real estate strategy become? To answer that, you have to stop looking at individual restaurants and start looking at the entire property portfolio. McDonald's had found a way to make the restaurant, the franchise system, and the real estate work together. And that is the real mystery behind McDonald's. How a company famous for selling cheap burgers built one of the most powerful business systems in the world. But the story doesn't end with owning valuable locations. The franchise system added another powerful layer to the business. Instead of McDonald's having to operate every restaurant itself, franchisees could run many of the locations. The company could therefore build a huge network without managing every burger personally. That made expansion much faster. More locations meant more customers, more franchise relationships, and more opportunities to control valuable real estate. And the system began reinforcing itself. Successful restaurants attracted customers. Customers made locations more attractive, and attractive locations helped support more restaurants. The location and the restaurant could strengthen each other, and when you repeat that formula thousands of times, the result can be enormous. This is where McDonald's starts looking less like a collection of restaurants and more like a massive property network. Every location could become another piece of the portfolio, and the bigger the portfolio became, the more important the underlying real estate strategy became. Scale turned a simple real estate idea into something much more powerful. But there's an important detail people often misunderstand. The value wasn't simply in the building. The land underneath it could be the much more important long-term asset. And unlike a burger, land doesn't disappear after someone buys it. The burger is gone in minutes. The property can remain valuable for decades. That difference is incredibly important when you're building a business for the long term. Because businesses can change, customers can change, but a great location can remain valuable. That gave McDonald's something many ordinary businesses don't have, a huge physical footprint. And those locations were positioned where people were already moving, shopping, living, and working.
In other words, McDonald's wasn't just following customers. It was placing restaurants directly where customer traffic could be strongest. In a way, the company was playing a giant game of location chess. The goal wasn't simply to open another restaurant.
It was to place the right restaurant in the right location and make that location part of a much larger system. And after decades of expansion, that system became incredibly difficult to ignore. What started as a simple fast food idea had evolved into something far more sophisticated, a business built around food, franchises, locations, and real estate.